The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind you find in empty deserts or deep forests, but the heavy, suffocating silence that follows destruction. It pressed against my ears like a warning, like the universe itself was holding its breath. The battlefield was still smoldering. Fragments of ships, some human, some not, were scattered across the jagged terrain of Carthus. 9. A mineral-rich moon that had become the focal point of a war no one fully understood anymore. Smoke drifted upward in thin, ghostly strands. The sky above was bruised purple, streaked with the fading glow of orbital bombardments. I tightened my grip on my rifle and stepped carefully over a twisted piece of alloy. My comms were dead. My squad was gone. I was alone, or so I thought. A faint sound cut through the silence, a low, uneven breathing. Not human. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to raise my weapon and finish whatever survived. That's what we'd been trained to do. No hesitation. No mercy. The enemy wasn't just different, it was dangerous. But something about that sound, it wasn't threatening. It was pain. I moved toward it slowly, my boots crunching against debris. The sound led me to the wreckage of a sleek, organic-looking craft, nothing like our angular human ships. Its surface shimmered faintly, like liquid metal frozen mid-flow. And beneath it, I saw her. She was pinned under a collapsed section of the hull, her body partially concealed by glowing, vine-like structures that pulsed faintly with bioluminescence. Her skin, if you could call it that, was a deep iridescent blue, crisscrossed with faint silver lines that flickered like circuitry. Her eyes snapped open when she sensed me. They weren't human. Too large. Too bright. A luminous violet that seemed to look through me rather than at me. I raised my rifle. She didn't move. Didn't attack. Didn't even try. She just looked at me. And then she did something I'll never forget. She reached out a trembling hand. Not in aggression. In plea. I hesitated. Damn it, I muttered under my breath. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. The mission. The training. The war. All of it told me one thing. She was the enemy. But she was also dying. And I wasn't ready to become that kind of man. Lowering my weapon, I moved closer. Easy, I said, even though I knew she couldn't understand me. I'm not going to hurt you. Her breathing hitched as I knelt beside her. Up close, I could see the extent of her injuries. A deep gash ran along her side, leaking a faintly glowing fluid. One of her limbs, longer and more delicate than a human arm, was twisted unnaturally beneath the wreckage. She shouldn't have been alive. All right, I whispered, more to myself than to her. Let's get you out of here. The metal was heavier than it looked. I braced myself, gritting my teeth as I lifted the wreckage inch by inch. My muscles screamed in protest, but I didn't stop. Not when I felt her fragile form shift beneath the weight. Not when I heard that faint, pain sound again. With one final push, I heaved the debris aside. She collapsed fully onto the ground, her body trembling. Hey, stay with me, I said quickly. I had no idea how to treat an alien injury. Hell, I barely knew how to treat human ones without a medkit. But doing nothing wasn't an option. I tore a strip from my sleeve and pressed it gently against her wound. The moment the fabric touched her skin, something strange happened. Her body reacted, not violently, but instinctively. The silver lines across her skin flared with light, spreading outward from the point of contact. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in something else. Recognition. Then, pain. A sharp, searing sensation shot through my hand, like electricity ripping through my nerves. I jerked back with a gasp. What the? Before I could finish, she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was weak, but urgent. The glow intensified. And suddenly, I wasn't on Carthus 9 anymore. Images flooded my mind. A vast ocean beneath twin suns. Towering crystalline cities that pulsed with life. A people, her people, moving in harmony, their bodies shimmering with the same silver light. And then, war. Fire raining from the sky. Ships, human ships, cutting through their world like knives. Screams. Loss. Loneliness. I staggered as the vision snapped away, collapsing onto one knee. What was that? I breathed. She was staring at me. No. Not just staring. Connected. I could feel her. Her fear. Her pain. Her confusion. And something else. A bond. No, I said, shaking my head. No, that's not possible. But it was. I could feel her emotions as clearly as my own. And she could feel mine. Her grip tightened slightly, and I felt a wave of fragile relief wash over me. Not mine, but hers. You did that, I said slowly. Didn't you? She didn't speak. But I understood. Somehow I understood. It wasn't intentional. It was instinct. Her species, they formed connections to survive. And when I touched her, I became part of that. Bound. Forever. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't leave her. Not just because of the bond, but because she wouldn't survive without me. And if I was being honest, I wasn't sure I'd survive without her either. The connection wasn't just emotional. It was biological. I could feel it in my body. A strange synchronization. My heartbeat would steady when hers did. My strength seemed to return faster when I stayed close to her. And her wounds, they were healing. Faster than they should. You're full of surprises, I muttered one evening as I checked the makeshift bandages. She tilted her head slightly, watching me. I'd started calling her Lyra. I didn't know her real name, if she even had one I could pronounce, but it felt right. Lyra, I said softly. You almost died back there, you know. She reached out again, her fingers brushing against my arm. The bond flared gently. A response. Not words, but meaning. Not alone. I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I said. Not alone. Weeks passed. Rescue never came. But neither did the enemy. It was like the war had moved on, leaving us behind. Stranded. Together. I learned to read her emotions more clearly over time. She learned to understand my intentions. We didn't need language. The bond was enough. And somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like a burden. It became something else. Something deeper. One night, as we sat beneath the alien sky, I felt something shift. A new sensation. Not fear. Not pain. But choice. Lyra looked at me, her violet eyes glowing softly. And I understood. The bond had been accidental. But it didn't have to stay that way. We could strengthen it. Solidify it. Make it permanent. Or we could try to break it. My chest tightened. Is that even possible? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. But I felt her uncertainty. And her hope. Not hope for freedom. Hope for me. I laughed softly, shaking my head. You're unbelievable. You know that? She tilted her head again, curious. You went through all this, lost everything, and you're still thinking about what's best for me. I looked out at the horizon. At the distant wreckage of a war that suddenly felt meaningless. I should want to go back, I said. To my people. To my life. But the words felt hollow. Because the truth was, that life was gone. This was my reality now. This strange, broken world. This impossible bond. And her. I looked back at Lyra. She was watching me, her expression unreadable, but the bond carried her feelings clearly. She was afraid, not for herself, for what I would choose. I took a deep breath. "Hey," I said gently. "Look at me." She did, and I smiled. "I'm not going anywhere." The relief that surged through the bond nearly knocked the air from my lungs. "But," I added, this needs to be our choice, not something that just happened to us." I reached out, mirroring the moment that started it all. Together. She hesitated for only a second. Then she placed her hand in mine. The world exploded into light. The bond deepened, strengthened, evolved. This time, it wasn't chaotic. It was harmonious. Our thoughts brushed against each other, not overwhelming, but present. Our emotions flowed freely, no longer jagged and raw, but steady and shared. I could feel her completely, and she could feel me. Two beings, one connection. When the light faded, we were still there, on that broken moon. But everything had changed. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see an alien. I saw her. Lyra, my partner, my equal, my other half. "Well," I said softly, a smile tugging at my lips. "I guess that's it then." She blinked, curious. I squeezed her hand gently. "We're stuck with each other." A flicker of amusement echoed through the bond. And something warmer. Something that didn't need a name. I leaned back, staring up at the strange sky. "You know," I said, "for a place that tried to kill us, this world's not so bad." Lyra settled beside me, her presence a steady warmth at my side. And as the twin moons of Carthus, 9 rose above us, I realized something I never expected. I hadn't just rescued a wounded alien. I had found something far greater. A connection that transcended species. A bond that defied war. A future I never saw coming. And whatever lay ahead, we would face it together. Forever. Ending note. In the years that followed, the war would end, not with annihilation, but with understanding. Stories would spread of a human and an alien who shared a bond unlike anything seen before. A living bridge between two civilizations. Some called it impossible. Others called it dangerous. But for us, it was simply life. And as new stars welcomed us into an uncertain future, one truth remained unshakable. I had rescued her that day. But in the end, she had saved me too.